Let us follow the further fate of the sclerotome and myotome in formation of the vertebrae and skeletal muscle. We will need a transversal section through the embryo for that purpose. With the spinal cord, with the dorsal root of the spinal nerve, the ventral root of the spinal nerve, forming together a short spinal nerve, which later on gives the dorsal ramus, and the dorsal ramus will supply population of muscles that are called epimeric or epiaxial muscles, while the ventral ramus provides supply for a larger hypoaxial or hypomeric muscles for a larger population of these. Then there is the body of the vertebra, which sends processes dorsally. They are so-called neural processes. They will grow around the spinal cord, and ventrally they are costal or pleural processes growing this way. Here there will be the gastrointestinal tube, the gut with the mesenteries, and the body cavity. Later on, these hypomeric muscles, they split into more layers of the body wall, while the epimeric muscles, they kind of retain that original segmentation pattern. This will be the aorta. So let's label the structures. The spinal cord, the dorsal root, the ventral root, perhaps like this, of the spinal nerve, with its dorsal ramus, providing innervation of the epimeric, also epiaxial muscles. They retain the original segmentation pattern, and they become the dorsal muscles and the deep intervertebral muscles. While the ventral ramus supplies a group of muscles called hypomeric or hypoaxial muscles that will differentiate into ventral muscles and lateral muscles. Of the body wall. Also limb musculature and more. Here is the body of the vertebra. And these processes that grow dorsally are called dorsal or neural processes, left and right. And we have another called coastal or pleural processes. Let's explain the growth of the processes on an example of a thoracic vertebra with its body and the dorsal processes. They form the pedicle, the transverse process, and the lamina of the arc. And on the other side, the same. Here they will fuse and form the spinous process to encircle the vertebral foramen that will protect the spinal cord. While the coastal processes in the thoracic vertebra, they really grow pretty much, and they will form the ribs. They will grow around the thorax in this direction. They keep on growing to join the components contributing to the formation of sternum, where in the upper part we got a small pre-sternal cartilage, and on both sides we got a paired sternal bar, or left and right sternal bars that will fuse together to form the sternum. And the ribs will reach these sternum and fuse together. So this is a body of a thoracic vertebra. This is a pedicle. This is the lamina. Together forming the arc. And the left and right arc will fuse here and form the spinous process. Thus encircling the vertebral foramen. It's a closed vertebral foramen for the spinal cord. These are the coastal processes. There's the direction how the ribs are growing. And here are sternal bars. It will fuse with a pre-sternal cartilage. The pre-sternal cartilage will become the manubrium, of the sternum. The sternal bars will become the body and the xiphoid process of the sternum. And the ribs will fuse here, or actually make the articulation, or articulate with the sternum. Regarding the muscles, there are some special populations of muscle cells, such as the tongue muscles. They are innervated by the glossopharyngeal nerve, so it shows that they originate from occipital myotomes. That's the region where the 12th cranial nerve, the hypoglossus nerve, originates from. But these myotomes will travel a long way to reach the final position of the tongue. But they will pull the hypoglossus nerve to their final position. Also, the pharyngeal arches are forming some muscles. See the chapter on pharyngeal arches. For that, there was a special table on these muscles. And let me remind you of the mechanism of the differentiation of the skeletal muscle. It starts with the embryonic myoblasts that undergo cell divisions. So mitosis, they multiply, they increase in number. So we got embryonic myoblasts that undergo mitotic divisions, they proliferate. And these cells then are fusing, they're forming kind of chains of cells called myotubes. So they fuse into these multinucleated structures, and we got, as a result, we got an immature structure with still with the cell nuclei in the center that will express the proteins of the contractile apparatus. So this will be a syncytium, a multinucleate syncytium. There will be expression of contractile apparatus, thus resulting in a mature skeletal muscle fiber, finally, which has the nuclei below the sarcolemma, and most of the sarcoplasm is occupied by the contractile apparatus, organized into sarcomeres. Some of the myoblasts might persist and to form myosatellite cells, which can be occasionally found below the same basal lamina that surrounds the skeletal muscle fibers. So there is expression of contractile apparatus, and finally this is a mature skeletal muscle fiber and the myosatellite cells below the basal lamina. Also check our general histology schemes when we talk about that in the chapter about the muscle tissue.